أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is study number 20 of the Ramadan daily Quran studies for the year 2022, presented by myself, Zahid Aziz, on behalf of the Ahmadi Anjuman Ishaat Islam Lahore, UK. And continuing with the topic of charity, in this study, I will deal with who is entitled to receive charity, to whom should our charity be directed, the recipients. The circle of those towards whom an act of charity may be done in Islam is as wide as can possibly be imagined. The Holy Prophet ﷺ said, whatever you feed yourself with is an act of charity. Whatever you feed your children with, your wife with, your family with, is an act of charity. Whatever you feed your servant with is an act of charity. All those are acts of goodness towards others. And there is another hadith which says, whoever tills a field and birds and beasts eat from it, it is a charity. And that hadith also is a different version which says, a Muslim who plants a tree or sows a seed and then birds and animals eat from it, that is an act of charity. So to help nature in this way, to help birds and animals and nature itself by planting trees, sowing seeds, is, according to hadith, an act of charity. And also the Holy Quran mentions extending charity to all people. A Muslim's charity should be extended to all people, regardless of whether they are believers in Islam or not. And a verse in this connection is the following. Laysa alayka hudahum walakin Allah yahdi man yasha. Their guidance is not your duty. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is told here that to bring people to guidance is not his duty, but Allah guides whom he pleases. So whether someone accepts guidance is up to Allah and not up to the Holy Prophet or someone else who brings guidance to that person. And then the verse goes on to say, وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِأَنفُسِكُمْ وَمَا تُنْفِقُونَ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ اللَّهِ. And whatever good thing you spend, it is to your good, and you are only spending it to seek Allah's pleasure. And this part is related to the first part, and whatever good thing you spend is related to that part which says their guidance is not your duty. Because this relates to charity towards unbelievers, those who don't believe in Islam. This is chapter 2, verse 272. And the reports which relate to this verse show that what it means is that a Muslim must also extend his charity to the poor and needy among sinners, among non-Muslims, and even among the opponents of Islam. And the words, their guidance is not your duty, convey that if someone is refusing to follow the true guidance, then a Muslim should not behave as if it is his personal duty or responsibility to make him follow the guidance. Instead of thinking about that, a Muslim's duty is to be charitable towards all who need help, regardless of who they are. So, as this verse says here, their guidance is not your duty, and whatever good thing you spend, it is to your good. Whatever good thing you spend on such people, that will do you good. Spending good things is to give in charity. And there is a hadith in which the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells the story of a man who went out on 3 consecutive days or 3 consecutive nights, each time saying that he would give charity to someone he found at random. And every time he gave someone charity and then returned, and people noticed it, they laughed and they said, he has unknowingly given it to a person who didn't deserve it for one reason or another, which I won't go into. And that he has wasted his money, he's given it to undeserving people. So this happened on the 3 occasions. But the man hearing people say this, he thanked Allah that he'd actually given that money to those so-called undeserving persons. And then someone came up to that man and explained to him for his satisfaction that even those undeserving persons might have benefited from his charity in a good way, even though they were the kind of people whom others would not give anything to. But even they might benefit from his charity. And the Holy Quran also mentions the duty of charity towards animals. I've already mentioned that hadith about the person who plants a seed in a field and then birds and animals eat from what grows in that field. I've already mentioned that. But in the Holy Quran, it's directly stated, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ, that in the wealth of the believers, of the true servants of God, there is a share, haq, there is a share for the sa'il and the mahroom. And this is normally translated as for the beggar, those who beg, and those who are deprived. And the word for deprived here, mahroom, it's understood as applying both to a poor man who does not beg, because it mentions here the beggar, the sa'il, the one who asks, and the one who is deprived. So the deprived one is one who is poor but does not beg from people. And its mahroom is also taken to mean here the animals who are deprived of being able to ask, who have no power of speech. So obviously charity towards animals does not mean giving them money, but spending money on their welfare. So that is also a part of charity. From your wealth, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ, and in their wealth. And charity, if we come to the specific sense as generally understood of giving away wealth, giving away money, then that is of 2 kinds in Islam. There is voluntary and there is obligatory, just as the 5 daily prayers are obligatory and compulsory. And first, I'll come to voluntary charity. Voluntary charity is mentioned in the Holy Quran, as I mentioned in the last study, by the words infaq, ihsan, or sadaqah. And the Holy Quran contains so many commands on this subject that you can hardly turn a page in the Holy Quran without finding that the purpose of a person's life is to serve humanity. And especially in Surah Baqarah, there's a range of verses from 261 to 273 where this is specially mentioned. And I'll read the translation of the first one, 261. It says that the parable, in other words, the comparison, the example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah, is like a grain which grows 7 ears, and in every ear there's 100 grains. And Allah multiplies further for whom He pleases. And Allah gives amply, and He is knowing. He is the knower of your deeds. And what this indicates is that the wealth of the whole nation or the whole community grows if its members give in charity for the welfare of the poor and for national causes. For example, if you invest in the poor to improve their education and health, then what happens is that the well-being and prosperity of the whole community, the community as a whole, increases much more in proportion to what you give. It increases much more than the amount you would expect it to increase if you look at the amount you invested. So this investment brings about an enormous return. And this is what the Holy Quran here is mentioning, that from your charity, the whole nation and the whole community benefits, even though the charity might go to just the poor among them. And according to the same range of verses which I mentioned in Surah Baqarah, a deed of charity must be done as a duty which one human being owes to another, and it should not convey any idea that the giver is superior and the receiver is inferior. And again, I'll read out in translation those verses from that set of verses in Surah Baqarah, or some text out of them. Those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah, then they do not follow up what they have spent with reproach or injury. Their reward is with their Lord. In other words, having spent their wealth, they then do not go around hurting people by telling them what they've done for them, and hurt their feelings in that way. And then the text there also says, a kind word with forgiveness is better than charity followed by injury. So it's better if you just spoken a kind word to them as an act of charity, rather than give them money and then make them aware that they are inferior to you and you are superior and you've done them a great favor. And those verses then go on to say, addressing Muslims, O you who believe, Do not make your charity worthless by reproach and injury. In other words, by hurting people's feelings, by telling them that you did something for them. That makes your charity worthless. La tubtelu sadaqatikum. Do not make your sadaqas worthless. Do not annul and nullify them. And it says here that this is like the person who spends his wealth to be seen by people and does not believe in Allah and the last day. Obviously, the person who reminds someone to whom he is given charity that, look, I did this for you, he is doing it to be seen by people because he's reminding people of what he has done for them in order that he may have a feeling of superiority over them. So, and these last words, who spends his wealth to be seen by people and does not believe in Allah and the last day, this is all in chapter 2, verses 262 264, out of which I've quoted. These last words show that a person who gives in charity only to be seen by others for show purposes, he's just like one who does not even believe in Allah and the last day. So that is how strongly this is condemned, to give charity for display purposes, that person has no belief in Allah or the last day, because he is not content with just Allah knowing what he has done. He wants to show it to people. So that is the end of this study. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. Ameen.